The morning had that specific American small-town clarity to it, the kind that arrived only after a night of clean rain, when the air smelled faintly of wet sidewalks, clipped hedges, and coffee drifting from kitchen windows. It was late spring in Hawthorne Ridge, Indiana, a town that still believed mornings were for productivity and evenings were for neighbors. The sky was a pale, confident blue, the sun already warming the vinyl siding of houses that lined Maple Run Lane in polite, symmetrical rows. At 8:17 a.m., Daniel Cooper believed his life was under control. He stood barefoot on his back deck, wearing gym shorts from a 5K he never ran and a faded Purdue hoodie with one sleeve slightly stretched from years of tugging it on in a hurry. In one hand, he held a travel mug of coffee, black, already half gone. In the other, a leash attached to Buddy, a 70-pound golden retriever whose loyalty was matched only by his curiosity and total disregard for fences he didn't respect. Daniel yawned, stretched, and opened the backyard gate just wide enough to step through and grab the trash bins. That was the sound. Click. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the sound of ordinary negligence, the kind that didn't announce itself until it had already ruined your schedule. Buddy's ears perked. Daniel felt it before he saw it, that sudden shift in the universe when intention loses control to opportunity. Buddy, wait. Buddy did not wait. The dog slipped through the gate with the fluid confidence of someone who had been planning this moment since puppyhood. His paws hit the grass, then the sidewalk, then freedom, tail high, tongue out, joy embodied in motion. Buddy, Daniel shouted, coffee sloshing dangerously close to disaster. Buddy, come on. Buddy glanced back once. Just once. His expression wasn't defiant. It was grateful, like Daniel had just done him a favor. And then he ran. Daniel stood frozen for half a second, coffee dripping onto the deck boards. Then reality caught up. Oh no, 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 no. He dropped the mug. It shattered in a way that felt symbolic. He bolted barefoot across the lawn, hoodie flapping, phone still charging inside on the kitchen counter. By the time Daniel reached the sidewalk, Buddy was already halfway down Maple Run Lane, passing manicured lawns, mailboxes shaped like barns, and a chalk drawing of a unicorn that would soon be trampled by fate. Buddy, Daniel yelled again, louder now, voice cracking into a pitch that said responsible adult attempting authority. Buddy responded by accelerating. Hawthorne Ridge woke up. Across the street, Elaine Porter, a retired real estate agent with impeccable posture and a pink robe that suggested she dressed for both comfort and judgment, paused mid-watering her petunias. Is that your dog? She called calmly, as if asking about the weather. Yes, Daniel panted, jogging after Buddy with the grace of a man who ran only when chased by consequence. Buddy veered left, skidding slightly on the damp pavement, narrowly missing a recycling bin. Elaine clutched her hose like a lasso. Oh my, she said. He's committed. Daniel passed Mark Feldman's house next, where Mark, a software tester who worked remotely and dressed accordingly in basketball shorts and a button-down shirt, was dragging a trash bin to the curb. Morning, Dan. Whoa. Mark jumped back as Buddy streaked past. Is this part of a new fitness routine? Unplanned. Daniel shouted. He got out. Mark blinked once, then smiled. I'll cut him off. Mark sprinted in the wrong direction. Buddy dodged effortlessly. The chase expanded. By the time Buddy reached the corner of Maple Run and Cedar Loop, Hawthorne Ridge had become an impromptu search and rescue operation. Linda Chavez, pushing a stroller with twin toddlers wearing identical dinosaur shirts, pointed dramatically. He went that way. Buddy, Daniel yelled, now sweating, lungs burning, hoodie abandoned somewhere near a hydrangea bush. Buddy darted between yards, delighting in the freedom of open gates, startled squirrels, and the undeniable thrill of being pursued by a growing group of adults who had places to be but chose chaos instead. At Cedar Loop, Tom Watkins, a high school history teacher on summer break, stood barefoot in flip-flops, coffee mug in hand, observing the spectacle like it was an educational reenactment. Classic, Tom said. Dogs discovered democracy. Buddy crossed the street just as a minivan slowed abruptly. Rachel Nguyen, late for her shift at the dental clinic, leaned out her window. Golden retriever? She asked. Yes, Daniel gasped. He just stole my granola bar, Rachel said, holding up an empty wrapper. Buddy wagged his tail mid-stride. Daniel stopped, hands on knees, laughing despite himself. This was absurd. This was humiliating. This was, if he were honest, kind of incredible. Okay, he said aloud, straightening up. We're doing this. Phones appeared. Texts were sent. A neighborhood group chat titled Hawthorne Ridge Watch exploded into activity. Dog on the loose. Golden retriever, very fast. friendly but unrepentant. People came out of houses wearing whatever the morning had given them. Pajama pants, work polos, running shoes half-laced. Teenagers on bikes joined the perimeter. Someone brought treats. Someone else brought a tennis ball, optimism shining in their eyes. Buddy ran. But he also slowed. He paused to sniff a mailbox. To greet a child. To investigate a suspiciously interesting bush. The chaos became coordinated. The laughter grew louder than the frustration. Daniel jogged alongside Elaine, who had traded her hose for a pair of gardening gloves. I haven't done cardio like this since Clinton was president, she said cheerfully. Daniel laughed, breathless. I'm so sorry. Don't be, Elaine replied. This is the most exciting thing that's happened since the raccoon incident. Buddy finally stopped at the edge of Hawthorne Park, tongue lolling, chest heaving, eyes bright with the kind of joy that couldn't be scolded out of existence. The neighborhood closed in, slowly, gently. Daniel knelt, arms open. Buddy trotted over and sat. Just like that. Daniel hugged him, forehead pressed into warm fur, laughter and relief tangled together. Around them, Hawthorne Ridge applauded. By the time the applause faded at the edge of Hawthorne Park, the morning had fully crossed into late spring confidence. The sun sat higher now, warm but forgiving, glinting off bike helmets, stroller frames, and the sweat on foreheads of people who hadn't planned on exercising together. The grass smelled green and newly alive, the kind of scent that reminded everyone, subconsciously, that winter was officially done with them. Daniel Cooper stayed kneeling longer than necessary, arms wrapped around Buddy's thick neck, fingers buried in familiar fur that radiated heat and comfort. Buddy's heart thumped fast but steady, his tongue lolled happily, and his eyes scanned the gathered crowd with zero remorse. You had the time of your life, Daniel said softly. Buddy sneezed. Around them, the neighborhood lingered instead of dispersing. That was the first unusual thing. In Hawthorne Ridge, people were friendly, but efficient. A wave, a smile, a quick exchange, then back to schedules. Today, nobody seemed in a hurry to leave. Elaine Porter clapped her gloved hands together. Well, she declared, that was invigorating. I pulled something, Mark Feldman said, stretching one calf. Worth it. Rachel Nguyen parked her minivan along the curb and finally stepped out, arms crossed, smiling despite herself. He owes me another granola bar. Daniel laughed, standing now, leash secured. I'll buy you a box. Make it two, Rachel said. Hazard pay. Children circled Buddy, asking his name as if they hadn't known it 30 minutes ago. Teenagers leaned on their bikes, grinning, filming snippets for social media with captions that would later read Suburban Safari and Golden Blur. Tom Watkins launched into an impromptu lecture about how small communities historically relied on collective effort, which was politely ignored. Someone passed around bottled water. Someone else produced dog treats from a jacket pocket like a magician revealing cards. Daniel looked around, chest tight again, but this time from something warmer than panic. He recognized this feeling. It was the same one he used to get at block parties as a kid, before adulthood taught him to schedule joy instead of stumble into it. Buddy tugged gently on the leash, nose pointed toward the park. Oh no, Daniel said instinctively. Buddy sat. The dog looked at him with exaggerated obedience, tail sweeping the grass. Laughter rippled through the group. I think, Elaine said, lowering herself onto a bench, he's decided this is a social event now. And just like that, it became one. People sat. Kids played. Conversations started that hadn't existed before the chase. Mark discovered Rachel lived 3 houses down. Linda Chavez admitted she'd been meaning to meet Elaine properly for years. Tom debated dog psychology with a teenager who clearly knew more than him. Daniel leaned against a tree, Buddy sprawled at his feet, finally tired. He checked his phone, dozens of missed notifications from work, from reminders, from responsibilities he'd temporarily outrun. For the first time in a long while, he didn't rush to answer. A breeze moved through the park, rustling leaves, carrying distant lawnmower sounds and the faint chime of a church bell somewhere beyond the neighborhood. Hawthorne Ridge looked ordinary again, but it felt different. Elaine joined Daniel, hands folded. You know, she said, people think community just happens. But it doesn't. It shows up when something goes wrong. Daniel nodded. Or runs away. She smiled. Exactly. Later that afternoon, the neighborhood group chat changed its name. From Hawthorne Ridge Watch to Hawthorne Ridge Neighbors. Someone suggested a block cookout. Someone else offered lawn chairs. Rachel volunteered desserts. Mark created a shared document because of course he did. Tom promised trivia questions. The plan took shape organically, imperfectly, beautifully. Daniel walked home with Buddy as the sun dipped again, the day folding in on itself. Houses glowed softly now, windows lit, families inside eating dinners that tasted slightly better after fresh air and laughter. At his gate, Daniel paused. He checked the latch. Twice. Buddy waited patiently. Daniel laughed, shaking his head. "You didn't escape," he said. "You introduced us." Buddy wagged. That night, Hawthorne Ridge slept a little easier, not because everything was controlled, but because everyone knew who would show up when it wasn't. And in a town like that, losing something didn't feel so scary anymore. Pet Escape Right Pointing Arrow Neighborhood Teamwork is a funny and heartfelt small-town American story about how a single escaped dog turns an ordinary morning into a shared adventure. What begins as chaos becomes connection, reminding everyone involved that community isn't built through perfection, but through showing up together when things go off plan.
Like and subscribe if you want to be happy and motivate.